I'm Aaron Sagers, and this is Talking Strange. Hey there, spooky nerds, and welcome to Talking Strange, the Paranormal Pop Culture show. As always, I'm your host, journalist, author, TV host, Aaron Sagers. And my guest today, you know, from the band Burning Brides and Off, the supergroup, of course, that he's a part of, which was founded by Keith Morris, formerly of Black Flag and Circle Jerks. But Dimitri Coats is also the writer and director, and one of the stars of Free LSD, a movie that is now available on, let's see, we got it on Tubi, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, Google Play, Fandango at Home, Hoopla, Verizon Fios, all across the board. Free LSD is out there. And it is a fun, trippy, sci-fi, weird and also poignant ride that I dig, and I'm excited to talk to writer, director, star, producer Dimitri Coats. Dimitri, thanks for joining me, man.
Oh, thanks for having me, Aaron. This is great.
The first thing I want to say is I've heard about this film. I was aware of the film for a while before I actually saw it, and I think it was like 2 years ago, maybe 1 year ago, as conspiracy theory on Reddit that people are saying, this isn't even going to be a real movie. This is just some sort of viral marketing ploy for the next Off album and doesn't even exist. I don't know if you caught wind of that conspiracy theory or what your response was to it at the time, or if you've even been at the center of another conspiracy theory in your career.
Well, I've never I've never heard it referred to as a conspiracy theory, but thinking about it now and looking back, I can completely understand why fans thought that, because it took us 8 years to make this thing, and it was a lot of failed attempts. The film was originally supposed to be called Watermelon, and it was written for a different lineup, and all these, things happened. The shit hit the fan, as as bands tend to implode and have to regroup. This happened to us, and so each time we had a new lineup change, it was another opportunity for me to fine tune the script. And Watermelon became Free LSD, and then people still ask, like, what's up with Watermelon? When can we see that? And yeah, so it was just a very, very difficult project to pull off, because we really wanted it to be like these rock films that we grew up with, that are connected to albums, like Purple Rain or The Wall or Tommy or 200 Motels or the Beatles movies, and Monkey's Head, stuff like that. And it isn't done very often. And we had made all these crazy videos over the years that kept ramping up in terms of who's in them and budget and stuff like that. There was really nowhere else left to go, and we had a feeling this was going to be our farewell album, and so we wanted to do something really special and really bold. The film was really I think an incredible catalyst in terms of getting us to think outside the box musically, and by thinking of the album as a sort of soundtrack to the film, it just completely opened our minds. Keith had already had an interest in conspiracy theories, and so I just said, like, why don't we just embrace that? Why don't we do something, a total curveball, lyrically, musically. I started tuning my guitar in weird ways, because we were thinking about, we're gonna make a fucking midnight movie sci-fi film, like the stuff we grew up with. And we walk into that cult section back in the 80s, and rent those kind of films. We wanted to make a movie like that.
Yeah. About the movie itself, like, there's the official synopsis, which I'm not going to read. Instead, I want you to describe this film as if you're talking about it to someone that knows nothing at all about it.
It's about this really kind of schlubby character named Keith who maybe had big dreams of being a filmmaker himself or whatever. Life just dealt him a bad set of cards. And he started out having a video store that didn't work out, and he had to transition into having an adult store. And so he feels sort of less than what he aimed to be. And he's just depressed, unfulfilled, and out of nowhere, this really interesting young girl comes into his shop looking to buy a gift for a friend, and they hit it off. And suddenly, there's this, he just develops this huge crush. And he becomes obsessed with her, and miraculously, it's somewhat reciprocated. And along the way, he sees these ads. He might not notice it at first, but there are like these erectile dysfunction ads for this experimental process, and you have to go see this like weird doctor. And he doesn't think much of it, but then when the relationship becomes physical and he can't perform, it's sort of he's struck over the head by the time he sees it, for the third or fourth time or whatever, and he decides to go and see this doctor, who offers hope in the form of this experimental drug, which he takes, and the drug works. He's able to have incredible erections, but more importantly, it opens up a door to another dimension where he sees himself as the frontman for this punk band called Off. He literally, spawns on stage in the middle of one of their songs, and after that, he gets to walk around in those shoes, and he realizes he's in great danger in that other dimension, and he sort of snaps back into his normal life, and he realizes that first of all, this is who he could have been if life had dealt him different circumstances, and he'd followed his dreams maybe a little bit more carefully. But more importantly, um, it becomes his mission to find the other members of the band in this first reality where none of them are in a band, and he has to track them down and convince them all to take this drug so that they are strong enough in the off dimension to defeat this evil AI species that is desperately trying to keep them from making this new album, Free LSD.
Yeah. If not the first shot, like early on, we have this porno DVD that's about alien sex, and then we have the sense that this AI species is perhaps extraterrestrial or alien in origin. So I was curious what your thoughts were on, and as we're recording this, just as an aside, to talk about conspiracy theories and everything, there was this conspiracy theory going around that today was going to be the day of like a predicted alien invasion predicted by an early AI bot in 2009. I don't know if you heard that. But
No.
yeah, so it's timely because this AI bot predicted an alien invasion on this date. So, spoiler, it hasn't happened yet, at least on the Eastern Seaboard. But I was curious about your interest in this material. Is it beyond just a narrative device, or is there a genuine interest in sort of what's out there?
Yeah, no, I have an interest in it, and Keith does as well. It's really interesting. When we were researching to develop lyrics for this new album, Free LSD. That for me was something that kind of changed my life because I had never had an actual experience until I sort of opened myself up to it. We watched a lot of documentaries and went down a lot of rabbit holes on YouTube, but there was this one documentary that I guess I'm sure it's, a lot of people have seen it. It's pretty popular called Unacknowledged. And that's the one where I was like, holy shit, like these sources are really legit, you know? And Keith, openly described an experience he had with his father when he was young, where his father pointed at some stuff that was happening in the sky and just said, "Look at that. You'll probably never see this again." And it's just stuff that's unexplainable, UFOs. And as we were moving through writing the album and watching all of these, we really we centered on aliens and UFOs, extraterrestrial life, the idea that possibly the government is covering things up or trying to keep true knowledge away from us, which created this great framework for these punk rock lyrics because it's usually us against them or we want to know.
Mhm.
So it really was a great filter to work through. All I can tell you, I haven't talked about this very often, but since you have a paranormal show, I'd be happy to speak to you about it. There was a time during that period where I went out to dinner with my wife and two children, and we came home. The house was dark, and at that time, my kids were a little bit younger. They were still maybe afraid of the dark, and we live out in the suburbs and of Los Angeles. I just kind of made my way through the house to their room in the back of the house, turning on lights as I went. And when I got to their room, there was pretty good moonlight. And when that happens, you can sort of see what's going on outside to a certain extent. I went to flip the light switch on, and as we tend to do, we anticipate that movement and the light coming on. So my head was already going up as I was flipping the light switch on. And as I looked up, there's a long window in their room, and I saw something that was absolutely unexplainable. I mean, I'll try. It was a rather tall, um, opaque being with no eyes, nose, or mouth, no hair. It wasn't translucent, it wasn't a ghost-like, couldn't see through it, but it was unlike anything I'd ever seen. And its arms were, I would say, more underdeveloped than the legs, so a bit of a T-Rex thing going on. What was most startling about it was I had that feeling that I saw something I wasn't supposed to see because as soon as I saw it, it moved without making like an attempt to run or even walk fast. It just moved very, very fast around the side of the house, like in an instant. It was the kind of experience where it seemed like it was maybe not fully in this reality, like it was trapped between somewhere else and here. And I, you know, my mind was making these lists of what it could be, and there was no other explanation. I didn't hear any rustling because where it would have moved around the house, the corner of the house, there are all these plants and shrubs, and you would have heard steps or things like that. It was absolutely silent. I didn't say anything to anybody for a while because I didn't want to scare anyone. I wasn't scared. I had this incredible feeling like, oh my God, I just saw something I'm not supposed to see. I caught it. You know what I mean? Like I caught it off guard. And it gave me such hope, and such a joyful feeling. because I really want to believe, and this, without question, was a gift, you know.
Yeah,
It's the
was it?
same. It's like a similar feeling like around here where I live. We live in the mountains, and a lot of people who have grown up and lived here their whole lives, they've never seen a mountain lion, you know. Well, one time Keith and I were driving from, he was hanging out for a couple nights, and we were working on the album, and we went to dinner, and we came back, and there was this scenic turn, and I had to hit the brakes because a mountain lion walked right in front of us, and it wasn't even phased. It didn't break stride. It just sort of looked over at us and was like, the subtext was like, yeah, you're very lucky to see me, most people don't.
Yeah.
Good timing, and so this was that feeling, but times 100,000, because there was no explanation for it. And days later, I told my wife about it, and then a couple of days after that, we were talking in the living room, and there are mirrors in the living room, and she saw something very similar while we were talking. And the sequel to Unacknowledged is Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, where they go into talking about how you really have to be open to have these experiences, and you can actually meditate on life outside of this planet, and if you're in tune, and open to it, it can happen to certain people. And I really feel like that happened to me. And it certainly informed how I moved into finishing the writing of the movie, and working on the film and bringing it to life.
Was there any feeling associated with it? Not just feeling lucky to see it, which is I understand that, but almost like a feeling emanating from whatever it was that you saw. And did your wife have any kind of accompanying feeling after witnessing something?
Again, it's excitement, and I did not because neither one of us got the feeling that it was a threat in any way. I mean, the way that aliens and UFOs are often presented, it's this scary thing, and like you said just a moment ago, an invasion. I didn't get that feeling from what I saw. I saw I saw this being as something far more advanced than human. And like I said, it almost seemed like it was caught between dimensions. And then just its ability to move was, yeah, I can't describe how quickly it and silently it just whipped out of my view. But I saw it like I'm seeing you right now. I mean, you're not physically in front of me, you're on a screen, but you know, I'm seeing you. And that's the way it was with this being. And it was like a like an alabaster color, and it had like a shimmering quality to the skin. It wasn't just this dull quality. It was a material of which I've never encountered.
Yeah.
Magical.
I like that, and I like the mountain lion comparison because it's that sense of like, oh, you're part of something, and it's more than just you. It's bigger, So I like that comparison. I have a million more follow ups on that story, but I also want to, before I lose you, I want to talk about do a couple follow ups on the film. I mean, I guess kind of speaking to that, you said it impacted the writing and execution of Free LSD. Was there a specific moment in the film that, if you were going to go back and watch it again, you would pinpoint and say, "Oh, okay, that's when Dimitri had that is reflecting more of that shift, or based on that experience?
Well, I would say an interesting thing happened in post-production because originally, based on the script, it was supposed to be ultimately this battle between good and evil, but both sides were supposed to be aliens. The actors who were playing the good aliens wear white contact lenses, and the actors who are playing the evil aliens wear black contact lenses. And they both had different interests in humanity, whether it is to preserve humanity or to destroy it. And I think I was set on you'll see in these alien battles the actors, the change of expression. They go from like these really crazy smiles to like these scowls. And that was I thought I was in editing going to superimpose both of those things to give it like a really weird kind of Lynch quality. And instead, I looked at it as those contact lenses as like a blank canvas and an opportunity to develop the narrative a little bit differently in terms of, okay, maybe I can make, instead of having evil aliens with these black eyes, I can use those black eyes as a a blank slate to sort of turn them on. And I switched into thinking of them as AI, because it started to, I read that because my first attempt at writing this script was back in, I don't know, 2016, and a lot has happened since then. And AI is suddenly like right in front of us. So I wanted to go in that direction and keep the good aliens who are like these hybrids, hybrid humans, and make it more about them trying to save humanity from this thing we're all afraid of with AI.
Yeah. You have these cameos in the film, Dana Gould, which I like Dana Gould's character because he's an experiencer, which it's easy enough to just, label him as a crackpot or tinfoil hat, wearing kind of cat, but then ends up that maybe he's tapped in a bigger way. And then, of course, Jack Black plays a cameo. But throughout the film, obviously it's you and you're playing a meta version of yourself. And then Keith has a couple of versions of himself that he's playing. And then David Yow and Autry Fulbright and DH from the Dead Kennedys. So you have all these incredible musicians that are involved in this. And I was kind of curious if it's tricky for you to be directing people that are your cohorts, your colleagues, your friends, your bandmates. Was it a challenge at all for you to kind of give them notes or nudge at all? Because it's a little bit different when you're suddenly in the driver's seat with these people that are your equals and that you play with.
I managed off from the first record onward, so I was used to being in a position of wearing other hats and sort of leading the charge,
Mm.
because it just made sense that I would do it. Back when we first started, we did, we didn't have much expectation. I mean, maybe we thought we'd put out a 7-inch and play some backyard parties, and then it sort of escalated very quickly. But um, I also produced the records and I co-wrote the songs. And nobody I didn't set out to make the film. I didn't think to myself, I want to write and direct this movie. I talked to several directors who, rightly so, didn't take it seriously. It just seemed too outrageous, and so I found myself in a position, same as managing the band, where I just rolled up my sleeves and said, okay, if I don't do this, like nothing's going to happen, and no one else is going to do it. And I've always had an interest in film and acting. It's sort of where I come from. Before I was ever in a band, I studied theater at Juilliard, and I quit after a couple years to pursue music. But I found with Free LSD, the movie, that I there was this full circle thing happening, and suddenly I was in a situation where all these skill sets that I developed over the course of my life were coming into play and intersecting. And so when I'm around other actors, I think there's a symmetry there because they realize that I studied acting very seriously at one point, and I think I like to think that I know a thing or two about it, and I know what it's like to be on a stage acting or behind or in front of the camera. And so I feel for actors. I know what they're going through, and I want to give them something to help them be as brave as possible, take chances, and then with the non-actors, I mean, first of all, to your point, we purposefully tried to bring in as many people from our music world who happen to have acting chops or really want to pursue it. That's somebody like David Yow. I mean, he's more than anything, more than Jesus Lizard. I mean, I've talked to him about it. He desires more than anything else to be an actor. And I wrote that role for him. So that was kind of fun, to because I had real people in mind. The part that I wrote for Jack Black, I knew he was, probably going to play it, and I wrote for him. I wrote for David Yow. I wrote for Keith and myself and for Autry. Um, DH Peligro, that was a wild card. And, that was something that happened 2 weeks before shooting, where our drummer in real life, Justin Brown, who plays on the album, Free LSD, he called me frantically from Europe saying, like, I'm so sorry, but my tour was extended. He was playing in a jazz band, and I can't make the days that I told you I could make. And I mean, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know how we were going to survive that. The film is about our band, and
Mhm.
here we are now with no drummer. I quickly started hearing about DH from a couple different people. And first of all, he's a legendary punk rock drummer,
Oh yeah.
Dead Kennedys. Um, but more importantly, for this situation, he was seriously pursuing acting. He had like almost all the boxes checked off to be able to do this and do it at a moment's notice. And so I had a conversation with him, and he came, and we rehearsed as a band, like air performing the songs, and and he really brought something to the film that I don't think would have been there otherwise, just because he's a he was a really talented actor, and the history that he had with Keith going way back with the Circle Jerks and Dead Kennedys playing shows together and partying. We instantly had this sense of camaraderie, and it wasn't something that had to be forced or
Yeah.
so yeah, it was a wonderful thing to work with so many. I mean, Rob Zabrecki's in the film, from Possum Dixon, Christie from the Flesh Eaters. I mean, we had Don Bowles in there in the drum battle,
Yeah.
the drummer of the Germs. Yeah, it's a real who's who. Um, and I think that's probably why Jack Black, wanted to take part in it. I mean, I know he likes our band, but with Tenacious D, he has a huge interest in music as well, and he's an amazing sport. He's was in two of our music videos. He never said no to us, and it's pretty cool for to make a first film and have a name like that on it. It definitely helped.
Yeah. They and the of course, with D.H. Peligro, I think it's definitely worth mentioning. You know, he sadly has passed away, and a couple of years ago, and this is a nice kind of uh, final testament. You know, a guy that wanted to be an actor and was pursuing acting, and now we have that out there, along with being a legend in the punk world. Who out of all these guys was someone that really just took to the acting part, like in a surprising way. Okay, yeah, you already knew DH was pursuing that,
Yeah.
but who took to it in a surprising way? Obviously, when you're
Well,
on stage,
yeah.
you are performing and you are a version of yourself. There's a persona element to it, but still playing that separate role.
Well, that would have to be Keith because
Yeah,
I mean, people would pull me aside and say, "Hey, are you sure you know what you're doing?" Like that's he has the lead role, and he's a senior citizen. He has diabetes, and he's maybe a little bit socially awkward to begin with in certain situations. And I would tell everybody, look, I wrote this role for him. I know his strengths, I know his weaknesses, and I truly believe that he can do it.
yeah,
Um, and something really remarkable happened in editing where we made him more reactionary. We would maybe cut some of his lines, and because his face and his eyes especially were so expressive and like a window into his soul, how he's feeling, and it was very believable that he was invested and he trusted in this. He definitely he's didn't go into this having really any acting experience, and I told some of the other actors, especially the ones who are like coming into this with a lot of experience, like, look, there are going to be situations here where you just have to be on your toes, and we might just go off the script and just improvise, just go with it. And all those actors were very excited about that. There was a real feeling of I wanted it to feel like I wanted everybody to feel invested and feel like their ideas, mattered. And there was really more of an ensemble. I come from the theater, and that's the way it always felt to me.
yeah.
That we're all doing this together. And so, yeah, Keith, I think he surprised even himself. When we screened it at Slam Dance, afterwards, we're on the stage, and he got really emotional and just said it's the greatest achievement of his life.
Well, that's saying something. I don't know Keith, but I know his work. I know him as a musician. So watching this, again, not knowing him, but having an idea of who he is as a performer on stage, like, and then seeing this felt like two
Yeah.
different people in the I guess Keith Prime that we meet in the
Yeah.
first part of it.
Yeah, I mean, he started to, yeah, as we assembled his performance in the editing process, this kind of Forrest Gump quality started to emerge, and we were like, "Ooh, that's great. Like
Yeah,
this is working." Um, I mean, some people, I mean, that's the thing about this film is like, okay, we knew our fans would appreciate it, and then we thought, okay, maybe punk rock fans in general would appreciate it because of all the people who are in it. And then we thought maybe people who are into just rock music will like it. And then we started thinking, okay, what is somebody going to think that's coming at this completely cold? Just somebody that sees the title and sees who's in it and takes a chance on it and just watches this thing and has no idea that there's actually a band called Off, and that record exists, that it's something you can go to the store and hold in your hands. So I don't know, people might look at it and think like, wow, this is very very strange, and these I don't know about these actors. I'm extremely proud of the outcome, and I just think I think it's in some ways a touching film. It's not we didn't set out for it to be such, but there are times where it's moving.
Mhm.
And that was I think that was the psychedelia that we wanted. That's the LSD is just the emotional roller coaster ride that you go on. It's got all these different feelings and colors. There's sci-fi, like hopefully some legitimate sci-fi. There's a lot of goofiness on purpose. It's meant to be a midnight movie. There's a love story in there, and there's some horror. I definitely wanted to throw in some stuff that always put a smile on my face as a kid, like Scanners or Evil Dead 2, some just proper fun gore.
It's exploding.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I loved all of that. That was a great time. And look, obviously, getting comparisons to Repo Man and that style of film, I think it is something that's connecting with people that even if they don't know anything about the bands themselves, which some of these I don't know how you could not, but it's still connecting with people. I I know we're running out of time, but well, two things I wanted to say to you is the other thing is I just found it interesting that the so I don't know if you know J. Allen Hynek is, who's the guy behind Project Blue Book, who was investigating UFOs,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
then he felt like he was kind of being set up by the government, and later on became more of a proponent of these cases. His son, so he passed away. His son, Stephen Hynek, is not necessarily in the same pedigree as his father, but he's also exploring sort of anomalous phenomena, things like that. But he's doing it at times through things like LSD and altered states to communicate with sort of what's out there and this higher consciousness, these aliens that are maybe not always in the flying saucers above, but are existing sort of in a more ethereal plane, as he kind of posits. So it was just an interesting kind of component as I'm watching this film. I'm like, this is not the same thing, but weirdly parallel to things that people are exploring, which I found I was really digging.
Yeah, Project Blue Book was definitely part of our homework when we
Yeah.
were filling up the well of subject matter to write about.
Yeah. Well, I would say look into Stephen Hynek, his son, because it's just an interesting kind of continuance there. And hey, I mean, if Keith ever wants to talk about UFOs as well or conspiracy theories, send him my way. But
Oh my God. Well, you have to extend the show another hour for that.
uh, well, before I let you go, I know filmmaking. Obviously, as you said, you went to Juilliard, you spent time there. You've been always interested in acting and filmmaking, and then you have this great career as a musician and a manager and all these other things. But now it seems like the filmmaking is the path forward for you. It seems like really what you want to double down on. I've heard about Pie Night, I believe. So tell me a little bit about what's next for you and, tease out a
Yeah,
little.
yeah. There are a couple of films that I'm going to be writing. Pie Night is one of them. That's like a dark comedy, and then there's a horror film that I want to shoot in Europe, in like three different languages. So I don't know which will come first. I guess whichever I can get made first, but um, but yeah, I really found myself in a position with this film where, I went from feeling like a total failure and all doors slammed in my face for years to suddenly, people coming on board like Jonathan P. Shaw, who's one of David Lynch's editors, goes way back to Blue Velvet and edited all the original Twin Peaks that David Lynch directed. And then, I had Christopher Raymond come on board as my DP, and he shot everything from Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind to Joker, the first Joker.
Yeah. And
Um,
one of the Avengers films too, I think.
yeah, yeah, and I just wanted it to feel like a band, like that feeling of hey, we're like I get to work with these veterans, they get to people start to believe in the vision, and suddenly you have this common goal. And I gave everybody a lot of freedom, to just do what they do best. Because I had had a lot going on, especially when I was also in front of the camera. Um, but yeah, it was amazing. Got to work with some exceptional people. Kurt Kittleson produced the movie, and there'd definitely be no free LSD without him. And he's worked with Paul Schrader and Bret Easton Ellis, and so I really was for a first film. I was in a very special place and very lucky. So and everybody's seems to believe in me that this is something I should do moving forward. I certainly want to, so I'm going to try. But I still love music more than ever, and though I'm most likely finished being in rock bands, I do want to put out my own music, which is maybe a little bit mellower.
Yeah. Dimitri, I appreciate your time, man. I really dug the movie. I had a good time watching it, and
Oh, right on.
I did think it was, yeah, it was fun. It had a lot of horror elements to it, but yeah, there was also some poignant moments to it that, as someone that is, as you get older and you think about what could have been and what if, all of that, the sliding doors kind of effect, the parallel dimension, I found really interesting. All of it. So I really dug it. And man, I appreciate you, and I appreciate your time. My guest has been Dimitri Coats, of course, from the band Off and Burning Brides, but also the writer, director, and one of the stars and producer of Free LSD, movie that's available now for purchase and rental, Amazon Prime Video, Apple TV, Google Play, Tubi, Fandango at Home, Hoopla, Verizon, Fios, all over the place. So do check out Free LSD and keep an eye out for Dimitri's other films that are in the works, whether it's horror or some other stuff. And until next time, I'm Aaron Sagers. This has been Talking Strange. Be kind, stay spooky, and keep it weird.